There is a scene in cinema history so brutal, so unforgiving, that audiences walked out of theaters in silence, not angry, not crying, just broken. The Mist doesn't end, it executes you. Director Frank Darabont didn't just adapt Stephen King. He betrayed him. He took King's ambiguous ending and replaced it with 5 gunshots and a scream that will live inside your skull forever. This isn't a horror movie. This is a trust exercise, and Darabont violates that trust in the final 4 minutes with surgical precision. Here are the dark secrets behind The Mist and the truth the studio tried to bury. Number 1. Stephen King didn't write that ending. Frank Darabont did. The original novella ends with the survivors driving into the mist. No resolution, no hope, just static on the radio and the unknown stretching ahead like an infinite gray wound. But Darabont had a different idea, a crueler idea. He pitched it to King before filming even started, sat him down and described every detail. The gun, the math, the timing. King's response, "I wish I'd thought of it myself." That approval would haunt millions of viewers who had no idea what was coming. And here's the thing that makes it worse. Number 2. The studio begged them to cut it. Dimension Films saw the finished ending and panicked. Executives called emergency meetings. They wanted hope. They wanted survival. They wanted David Drayton to see his son grow up, to find his wife alive, to drive out of the mist and into sunlight. Darabont refused. He had final cut approval written into his contract specifically because he knew this fight was coming. He'd fought for that clause during negotiations, knowing the ending would terrify not just audiences, but the very people funding the film. He knew exactly what he was building. A trap. Number 3. Thomas Jane wasn't acting in that final scene. He was breaking. Watch his face after the 5th gunshot. Study it. That isn't performance. That isn't craft. That's a man who just shot blanks at a child actor and felt something inside himself collapse like a condemned building. Jane later admitted in interviews that he needed therapy after filming wrapped. The scene required 17 takes. Not because the crew wanted perfection, not because the lighting was wrong, because Jane kept stopping. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. He couldn't pull the trigger. Between takes, he walked in circles. He wouldn't sit down. Sitting down meant settling into the moment, and the moment was unbearable. Look closer. Number 4. The child actor didn't know what was happening. Nathan Gamble, who played Billy, was 8 years old during production. The crew made a collective decision to protect him. He was never told the full ending, never shown the complete script. On set, simply closed his eyes like he was told. Heard the gun, felt Thomas Jane's hand trembling against his head, but he didn't understand the context. Thought his character was falling asleep. The adults on set knew better. The adults couldn't look at each other between takes. Some of them left the soundstage. A grip who had worked in the industry for 20 years later said it was the only time he'd ever seen an entire crew go silent without being told to. The silence wasn't professional. It was grief. This is the part that hurts. Number 5. The mist clears exactly 30 seconds too late. That's not an accident. That's mathematics. Darabont timed it with a stopwatch. The military arrives in formation. The monsters burn in waves of fire. Flamethrowers cut through the fog like surgical instruments, erasing every nightmare that had seemed so permanent just moments before. The survivors walk past the car in stunned silence. And David Drayton, covered in his son's absence, realizes he murdered his child for nothing. 30 seconds, half a minute, the length of a commercial break. The distance between salvation and damnation. If he had waited, if he had trusted, if he had sat in that car and simply done nothing at all, but the movie won't let you look away. Number 6. The woman who left at the beginning, she survived. Remember her. The terrified mother who begged for help in the first act, who pleaded with the survivors to escort her home to her children. Everyone refused. Too dangerous, they said. She called them cowards, called them selfish. And then she walked into the mist alone, unarmed, with nothing but desperation and the need to reach her kid. Everyone in that supermarket assumed she was dead. Creature food. A cautionary tale about emotion overriding logic. But in the final shot, she's sitting on the military truck, alive. Her children clutched in her arms. She had faith. David had a gun. And the movie forces you to watch him see her. Forces you to watch the recognition crawl across his face like something poisonous. She believed. He calculated. She survived. He destroyed everything. The film doesn't underline this moment. It doesn't zoom in. It lets it pass almost casually, which makes it infinitely worse. You either catch it or you don't. And once you catch it, you can never uncatch it. The cruelest detail is even smaller. Number 7, David has 1 bullet left, except he doesn't. He counts wrong. There are 5 people in the car and 4 bullets in the revolver. He knows this. His son knows this. The audience knows this. And we watch him decide anyway. We watch him assign each bullet like a mercy, rationing death the way you'd ration water. His son, the elderly couple, the woman who trusted him enough to get in the car, everyone except himself. His punishment isn't death. His punishment is living. His punishment is stepping out of that car into the thinning mist and screaming, and having the mist answer with silence, with engines, with rescue, with the slow mechanical reveal of everything he just threw away. He begs the approaching soldiers to kill him. They don't. They just keep walking. They have a job to do, and his suffering isn't part of it. Number 8. Test audiences reported physical symptoms. This isn't marketing spin. This isn't studio exaggeration. Exit surveys from early screenings documented nausea, trembling, and at least 1 reported case of vomiting in the theater bathroom. People didn't just dislike the ending. They had physiological reactions to it. Their bodies rejected it the way a body rejects poison. Several audience members described a feeling of pressure in their chest that didn't subside until they were outside, in open air, under a sky that wasn't gray. The ending didn't scare people. It wounded them. And there's a difference. Scary fades when the lights come on. Wounds leave scars. Wounds change the shape of you. You walk into the mist as one person and walk out as someone slightly different who now knows what that particular frequency of despair sounds like. Number 9. The gas station scene was improvised. Right before the ending, the survivors stop for fuel. The pump is empty. David tries again and again, squeezing the handle with increasing desperation, knowing each failed attempt brings them closer to the decision nobody wants to make. Crew had been filming for 14 hours. Everyone knew what scene was coming next. Nobody wanted to get there. The camera lingered on Jane for almost a full minute, and Darabont kept it in the final cut because you could see the resignation settling into the actor's body, not the character's body. The actors. Number 10. Stephen King calls it the most shocking ending in Hollywood history. Think about that for a moment. The man who wrote Carrie, who wrote The Shining, who made us afraid of clowns and cars and hotels and our own neighbors, who has spent half a century mapping the geography of human terror. That man watched The Mist and said Darabont accomplished something he never could. He gave horror real consequence, real weight, real cost. Not the cost of a jump scare or a nightmare, the cost of a decision made in love that becomes the worst thing you've ever done. King has written thousands of pages of terror, but he never wrote those 5 gunshots. He never wrote that silence afterward. He never wrote David Drayton's scream. Darabont did. Number 11. The ending was filmed in 1 day. 14 hours, no breaks. Crew knew if they stopped, the emotional momentum would shatter like glass, and you can't glue that kind of intensity back together. Everyone stayed. Everyone watched. The catering table went untouched for hours. When the final take was finished, nobody applauded. Nobody said cut with any enthusiasm. They just stood there in the artificial mist, breathing, trying to remember that none of it was real, trying to remind themselves that the child actor was fine, that the gun was loaded with nothing, that the monsters were pixels on a screen. Except it felt real. It still feels real. Almost 2 decades later, it still feels real. The Mist doesn't ask if you can handle it. It assumes you can't. And then it shows you anyway. 18 years later, people still pause before the final scene. They hover over the remote. They warn their friends with a specific kind of urgency that goes beyond casual recommendation. They know exactly what's coming, down to the gunshot count, down to the scream, down to the 30-second silence that follows. And they watch anyway. Every single time, they watch anyway. That's not entertainment. That's ritual. That's the horror genre doing exactly what it was designed to do. Not to scare you, to change you, to leave something inside you that wasn't there before. Something heavy, something permanent, something that shifts when you think about your own children, your own decisions, your own capacity for irreversible mistakes. If you survived this video, hit like. Subscribe if you want more videos that dig into the scenes Hollywood doesn't want you to think about. And tell me below, what's the one movie ending you can never unsee? What's the scene that still lives in your head, rent-free, playing on loop at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep? I'll be reading every single one.